comes rum coming everywhere. So prepare, say a prayer, send the word to beware. We'll be over, we're coming over, and we won't come back till it's over, over there, over there, over there. Send the word over.
Hey everybody, this is Joshua Littrell. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Veterans for Cannabis podcast today. I'm extremely excited. I've got a wonderful new veteran with us today. Miranda Dawn Marion, how are you doing?
I am doing very well. Thank you, Joshua.
Absolutely. So Miranda,
how are you?
I am doing great. Thank you. The thing that most excites me about having you on the Veterans for Cannabis podcast today is, first and foremost, you'll give us a little background about your service in the military, but you are just recently retired. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is correct. 21 years. I retired in July last year.
Wow. We're going to get into that in just a moment. But before we do, you also have just recently become a medical cannabis patient in Florida. Is that correct?
Yes, I have. And let me tell you, I am thrilled that I did it. The number one problem with me in the beginning was my anxiety about it. Like, I could come to you and ask you questions, but for whatever reason in my head, I was like, no, this isn't a real doctor. These are drugs. But as soon as I got past, the anxiety and talked myself into it after canceling the appointment 3 times and finally went, I was like, oh, my God, why did I wait? This was an easy process. They're so helpful. I mean, it's been fantastic. It really has.
That's really, really good to hear, because that's something we don't hear a lot. And I think what we'll do is we'll walk it back a little bit and talk about your service. But I think because of your service, because of what we do, Miranda, it's beat in our head. Drugs are bad. Weed's going to, kill you and all this good stuff. So I'm sure that was hard as hell to get over. So it's so glad just to hear you say that, and so refreshing. So if you don't mind, tell us a little bit about your service and where you're from originally, and then talk about where you served at.
All right. So born and raised in Carthage, North Carolina, very, very small town. Typical mom, dad, big family, 5 older brothers. Women had kind of their role, men had theirs. And then in high school, I kind of started bucking against that. Like, no, I don't have to be, a housewife or something like that.
That's
I want
right.
to do something different. My grandfather was a Green Beret in the Army. And I was like, well, it seems like this thing kind of worked out for him. And I've had cousins that are in the Marines, and they've done really well. So I was like, what the heck? I'll go talk to a recruiter. And then I realized that, it was the MEPS, like the early enlistment, that I was like, God, do I really want to do this? I was, starting college, becoming really rebellious, started dabbling in drugs, and just going in a shit direction, honestly. I was like, all right.
You were just living, Randa.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I was just being, a crazy kid, small town. There's not much to do. So, you do drugs and you drink. But my mom, God bless her, her dad passed away. He was an Air Force enlisted pilot, and he died in Nam.
Wow.
And so she forced me to keep my commitment. She was like, you have signed up to join the Air Force, because I was like, nope, changed my mind, not going to do it. And she's like, no, you are.
That's crazy.
You will. 100% you're doing this. I was like, oh, my God. And I, to the last minute, staying overnight, waiting to get on the plane, I was like, oh, my God. Why am I doing this? I was like, this is a mistake. And I really had a hard time, in basic and stuff, because I talked so much. I got myself in trouble all the time, and everybody was always so pissed because I got everybody in trouble, because I would just be behind people just talking to them. I mean, they weren't talking to me, but I would just talk to them. So, that was a bit of a struggle, but ended up graduating.
I think we have to give our listeners a full disclosure on it. So, Miranda, I've known you for years now, and I think in that, I have never heard this story about your mom making you keep your enlistment. That is awesome to hear.
Yeah, I mean, I was 100% not going to do it. I mean, I had absolutely backed out. And then all my friends, I was doing drugs with, are like, yeah, don't do that. No way. You're not going to be able to drug party. So, my friends are trying to talk me out of it. And I'm like, yeah, I want to have fun. My mom's like, no, you're going to be an adult. You're going to stick with it. And I'm glad. I'm grateful. My military service, 21 years, hard to believe that I made it, considering the mentality that I, went into it. But, I ended up getting my picked for surgical tech school, did that in Wichita Falls, and graduated, went on to Keesler Air Force Base. And that was, really my first time as an adult on my own, even though I was living in the dorms. And it was a wild ride. Went on from there, got stationed off at Air Force Base, Nebraska, did advanced trauma training, and did my first deployment in Saudi Arabia.
Wow.
And then once I got back from that, I got picked for surgical specialty, which is urology.
Okay.
And then I went on to specialize in urology specifically. Graduated from that school, got stationed, Travis Air Force Base, California, got deployed again. The kicker with that is I got deployed as a neurosurgery assistant, and I was doing urology, which is on the opposite end of the body.
Yeah, so for our listeners, can you help us understand that? What urology is not where neurology is, right?
No, totally different. I think the people that sent me on this deployment got confused about it also.
That is hilarious.
I think they were like, oh, urology, neurology, all that, ology, same thing.
It sounds the same,
and,
right?
Yeah, it's got to be the same. Yeah, what I dealt with is kidneys, the tubes, the ureters that go from your kidneys to your bladder. We dealt with cancer, kidney stones, infertility, you name it. But it's all specific to, the genitourinary system, which is kidneys, ureters, bladder, genitalia, and nothing to do with the brain at all. In no way, shape, or form. I'm performing kidney surgery or assisting with kidney surgery and vasectomies, and then they send me to go help take off someone's skull. It was interesting to say the least. I got there.
So what was interesting about that, Miranda? Tell us how you transitioned into that. I mean, because does it correlate? Does your experience in urology can it translate to the neurology side?
Not at all.
Okay, so you had to adapt and overcome at that point in time.
Adapt or perish, which was the mantra of Bagram Air Force Base. And that second night I was there, we had a massive trauma come in, and it was an eye opener. I'm not going to go into gory details, but I was just blown away. We're treating friendlies and enemies. You got to give them care either way. So
absolutely,
that first day, the person
I'll tell you what, Miranda, you brought up a huge point that we rarely ever talk about. So you just mentioned you got to take care of the friendlies, and friendlies are people who are of the same service or those other countries that we're serving with. Those are friendlies, right? But you also have to take care of the enemies. So tell our listeners, why in the hell would I take care of somebody who just fired an RPG at me? That doesn't make sense to me. But tell us why. It's
the Hippocratic Oath. It's do no harm. It's a human being. They have different ideals and beliefs, but they have a heart, they have a soul, they have a family. Do they deserve to get to kill people? No, but they do deserve to live. So
you're right.
You just have to suck it up. But buddy, it was hard. I
can't even imagine that.
Five of our guys coming in busted. Oh yeah, we would have guards in the surgical room while we're working on this guy who he's missing some limbs and stuff because he set off the bomb that killed these 5 guys that just came in, and you're just like, oh, man, you want to do the wrong thing, but you don't. You can't. I never saw anybody.
do you have time to think about it at that point in time, or are you just in a mode of, okay, we're just doing our rescue, we're doing our work, and you're not thinking about, okay, this dude is an enemy or this guy is a friendly. You're just thinking about the patient, right?
You are, but it's still in the back of your mind, especially when, you know, they were higher up, even though they're all busted up and there's guards with guns pointed at this guy who's under anesthesia, and you're like, pretty sure he's not getting up. But, you know, that is hard to ignore. You've got a guard with, you know, standing in the room pointing a gun at the patient and the table. It's just like, man, I can't ignore the fact that this is a bad guy. This is a very bad person, and we got to help him. I mean, it sucks a lot out of you, and like, it's hard to explain. It was rough for sure. Yeah. So I was there for 7 months doing that, and I have never felt more proud of what I did, though.
Oh yeah,
for sure.
I bet. So second day on the job, you get thrown into this, and then you just learn as you go.
Oh yeah, that first day, I mean, it was a crash course, and you know what? It taught me immediately. I mean, I never, like, at that first time, I was like, oh God. But luckily, I did have a very distant surgical, like, neurosurgery experience, because when I first came into the surgical field, the neurologist, the brain surgeon, just really liked me. Like, we would chit chat in the break room and stuff, and so he asked me to come in and do some cases with him. So I mean, I was aware, you know, of some of the instruments. It had just been a really long time since I had done any of it.
Sure.
So it was overwhelming, but you know, like you said, you sink or swim, adapt or perish.
That's what we learned. That's what they teach us, right? That's what we're supposed to do as military members. We're supposed to be able to take any situation and make the most of it and run with it and do a damn job.
100%. I mean, they expect you to go in and figure it out, and you know what? You're going to do it well, and you're going to do it frequently. It's going to be uncomfortable, but they put you in uncomfortable situations all the time, so that you do become resilient and you can bounce back from stuff. Otherwise, you're going to fail. I mean, I didn't exceed as much as I wanted to in the military, but I learned a lot, and it was a very good experience.
Well, I think what you said earlier, I steal it from Jocko all the time. You know, we have to become comfortable with being uncomfortable, and that is so true. Right. Just like that situation, you're extremely uncomfortable because you haven't trained on this in years, and now you're thrown into the fire, literally. So being comfortable with being uncomfortable, that's really what it is in the military. I think that you hit the nail on the head with that.
It is, but, you know, it also hurts us when you leave the military. It hurts you because you have a hard time relaxing, getting comfortable. You have this anxiety because you're away from all this structure, and you're just kind of left in this limbo, like, crap, I gotta figure out who I am, what I'm gonna do, what's my purpose, how do I do this? I have this time on my hands. I'm lost, and that's kind of how I felt for the past year.
Well, I'm sure, and you know, I don't think I've actually even thought about it until you just said it right there, because we you know, we've had this conversation a lot, and we've talked in the veteran community about, you know, what happens after we get out of the service. Well, we lose that sense of purpose, right? But what you just said is I got to learn who I am, because I will tell you unequivocally, I only did 6 years. You did 21 years. I did 6 years, and the kid I was before, when I got done with that 6 years, was a completely different person. I can't even imagine you at your young age and then serving 21 years. You have to learn who you are, because you have changed completely during that process.
Yeah, and it's pretty scary as an adult, being offered all these options. Yeah, I had those options the entire time I was in the military, but I didn't take advantage of them, like the education and stuff, as much as I should, and I just kind of followed the route the military put me on. So, yeah, when you're left with so many options and you're told, you know, you were told how your life was going to go, and now you're like, okay, so what do I want to be? And
you're learning how to choose. I mean,
people ask me.
You're learning how to choose.
Exactly.
Again,
that's,
you know?
Exactly. And I'm not good with too many choices to begin with, and so that makes it very difficult.
You and my wife both, because